The city tower stood high above the streets, shining under the morning sun. It was the tallest and most expensive building in the entire district. People often stopped on the sidewalk just to stare at it, because the place looked like a home for powerful people. Inside this tower lived and worked a billionaire named Grant. He loved attention, and he loved showing everyone that he was the smartest and richest man in the room every day. Workers rushed inside the tower with their ID cards, nice clothes, polished shoes, and expensive bags. They wanted to look confident, because the place demanded confidence. Among all these people walked Mara. She was the cleaning lady who had worked in the building for many years. Her steps were quiet, her hands always carried cleaning tools, and her head was slightly bent as she moved through the wide halls. She did not have fancy shoes. She did not have a stylish bag, but she carried pride inside her heart, because she believed that honest work had value. What most people never noticed was that Mara had a son who always waited for her near the back gate of the tower. His name was Leo. He was young, thin, and peaceful. He carried a small notebook every single day. He listened more than he talked, and he watched machines more than he watched people. Some guards laughed at him from time to time, saying that he looked too serious for his age. Others ignored him because he stayed quiet, but Leo never allowed their words to trouble him. He only cared about his mother and about learning new things. One day, when Mara reached the 30th floor to clean, she walked into a meeting room without noticing that people were inside. The room was large and filled with soft chairs and a long table made of dark wood. Many rich men sat around the table, drinking coffee and laughing loudly. Mara stopped at once. She wanted to leave, but it was already too late. Everyone had seen her. Grant sat at the head of the table. His suit was dark and expensive. His hair was neat, and he wore a confident smile that he loved to show. He enjoyed being the center of attention. In front of him stood a large metal safe. It was new, heavy, and taller than an adult. Its surface shined like ice under bright lights. It looked more like a machine from a secret lab than a simple safe. Grant looked at Mara, and his eyes showed amusement. "Welcome, Mara. You came at the right time. We were talking about this safe." He spoke loudly so everyone would hear him. Mara gave a small nod and held her cleaning cloth tightly. She did not enjoy being the focus of so many eyes. She wanted to return to her work, but Grant was not finished. "This safe costs more than everything in your street." Grant said it with a smile. He liked the reaction on his friends' faces when he compared wealth to ordinary lives. Mara stayed silent. She had no reason to answer him. She only moved to wipe the table near the wall, hoping that they would ignore her. Grant opened the safe slightly and let his friends see the stacks of money inside. The sight made the men whisper and smile with wide eyes. There were rows of tightly packed bundles. Some looked new. Some had official seals on them. It was the kind of money most people never saw in their entire lives. "Inside this safe is $500 million, Grant announced like a performer on a stage. "The most secure safe in the world. No one can open it without my code." His friends clapped and cheered. One man joked that even 10 thieves with 10 years of planning would fail to open it. Another man said that this safe was stronger than a bank vault. Grant smiled at all their comments and enjoyed the admiration. Mara continued cleaning, though her heart felt a little heavy. She was used to seeing rich people show off, but she did not enjoy when they mocked others while doing it. She tried to stay calm, because she did not want trouble. When she finished wiping the table, she stepped out of the room. At that moment, a few men noticed Leo standing at the end of the hallway, waiting for his mother like always. They pointed at him and laughed softly. One man asked if that was her boy. Mara looked at Leo and nodded gently. She hoped Leo would stay silent and wait for her as usual. But now Grant had also seen him. Grant walked out of the meeting room with a curious smile. He stopped in front of Leo and looked at him from head to toe. "So this is your son, Mara?" He looked shy. Grant spoke like he was observing something amusing. Leo lowered his eyes but did not move away. He showed respect, not fear. Grant scratched his chin and spoke again in a playful tone. "Tell you what, Mara. If your son can open that safe, I will give him the full $500 million inside it." Everyone around him burst into laughter. Some clapped their hands. Some shook their heads in disbelief. They all thought Grant was making a joke. They did not believe that anyone from a simple family could open such a strong safe. Mara froze where she stood. Her breathing grew tight. She did not know what to say. She did not want Leo to be mocked, and she did not want Grant to keep laughing at him. She tried to step forward, but her legs felt heavy. Grant looked at Leo again. His smile grew wider, almost staring the young boy. "What do you say, Leo? Can you open the safe?" Leo lifted his eyes slowly. There was calmness inside them. He did not look scared. He did not look confused. He only looked thoughtful, like he was trying to understand a puzzle. After a long moment, Leo gave a simple answer. "I can try." All the laughter in the hallway stopped. Every man turned silent. Grant blinked and leaned slightly forward. Mara whispered Leo's name in a worried voice. But Leo had already stepped toward the meeting room. He walked with his notebook in his hand, moving as if he had already imagined this moment many times before. He stood in front of the massive safe. Everyone watched him closely. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Even Grant stayed still as Leo touched the safe gently, like he was greeting an old friend. He pressed his ear lightly against the surface. He looked at the lock system with slow and careful eyes. He opened his notebook and took out a small pencil. He sketched something quickly. Then he touched the safe again, this time tapping lightly near the edges as if listening to hidden sounds. The men exchanged confused looks. Grant narrowed his eyes with interest. Mara held her breath behind the group, praying that Leo would not be laughed at again. Leo turned the first wheel of the safe lock. Then he paused and listened. He adjusted the wheel again. His movements were small and controlled, like he trusted his hands more than the machine itself. Nobody in the room had ever seen a young boy treat a complicated safe like a simple puzzle. And at that moment, a soft click echoed inside the room. It was the first sound of something impossible turning into reality. The small click inside the silent meeting room surprised everyone. It was a faint sound, yet it carried power. It felt as if the safe itself had responded to Leo's touch. The rich men leaned slightly forward, and Grant raised his eyebrows with a mix of shock and curiosity. Mara covered her mouth with her hand, unsure whether she should call Leo back or let him continue. Leo stood calm and steady. He examined the lock again. His eyes followed the metal curves, the tiny screws, and the mechanical pattern hidden under the shiny surface. He tapped once more near the edge, listening closely. It looked as if he could hear things that others could not. Grant walked closer, his steps slow. He no longer wore a mocking smile. Now he looked serious. His friends followed behind him, forming a half circle around Leo, as if watching a magician perform a rare act. Leo turned another wheel on the safe. This time he moved it slightly to the left, then stopped. He waited for a sound. Nothing happened. He turned it to the right. Still nothing. He closed his eyes softly, placing one hand over the cold surface. He breathed in and out, steady and calm, like he was solving a puzzle he had solved many times in his mind. Then, suddenly, he moved the wheel upward in a small, unusual angle. Another soft click echoed inside the room. The sound bounced off the walls. This time it was louder and clearer. Some men gasped. One man stepped back. Another whispered that the boy was guessing. But Leo was not guessing. Every move he made looked practiced and intentional. Grant looked at the lock with a deep frown. That angle should not make a sound. The safe was designed to avoid such reactions. It was built by experts who made sure that a person could not hear or feel the internal mechanism. Yet this quiet boy had just done something impossible. Leo stepped back and opened his notebook. He drew a quick sketch of the lock. His pencil moved fast and precise. Then he touched the safe again, tapping at 3 different points near the center. He noted the vibrations as if they were telling him a secret. After that, he crouched down and looked at the lower part of the safe door where the hinges were. Grant stepped closer, surprised. That area had no external weakness. It was reinforced metal with a layered inside. But Leo placed his fingers near the hinge and tapped lightly. He listened again. He stood up and spoke in a low voice. "This safe has a hidden double lock." Grant's eyes widened. His friends stared at each other in confusion. Leo was right. The safe did have a double lock system. It was a secret feature known only to the designer and Grant. The feature existed to ensure that even if someone broke the first lock, they would still fail to open the door. The double lock was never mentioned in the public brochure or in any document inside the building. No one had talked about it in front of workers, yet Leo had discovered it with only his ears and touch. "How do you know that?" Grant asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Leo pointed at the hinge. "The vibration changes here. It is small but clear. There is a second lock behind the main one." Grant had no answer. He stared at Leo, unable to understand how the boy could detect something hidden behind layers of steel. Leo stepped back to the center of the safe. He placed both hands on the metal again. His fingers moved slowly across the surface. He pressed lightly around the lock area, searching for the right place. His touch was gentle and thoughtful, like a musician feeling the strings of an instrument. Mara watched from the doorway. She wanted to call Leo back, but something inside her told her to wait. She watched her son as he moved with a confidence she had never seen before. Leo turned the first wheel again, only slightly. He listened. Then he turned the second wheel slightly. Again he listened. He repeated this action 3 times. Each time his touch became more accurate and his breath more steady. One of the rich men whispered that this was impossible. Another said no child could understand such a complex mechanism. But Leo did not hear them. The world around him had grown quiet. Only the safe mattered. Then came the third sound, a clean and sharp click. It rang out clear and confident. It was the sound of the first lock releasing completely. Grant stepped back with eyes wide. His friends moved aside as if something dangerous had just occurred. Leo took a deep breath. He wiped his hands on his shirt softly. His fingers trembled for a moment, but he regained control quickly. He looked at the second lock. This lock required a specific pressure and pattern to unlock. Even Grant sometimes struggled with it. The designer had shown Grant the method once when installing the safe, and even Grant had needed practice. Leo pressed his ear to the safe again. He tapped lightly with his knuckles. He listened closely. He tapped again, this time on the left side. His face showed concentration. He drew another small figure in his notebook, marking sound levels in a simple way that only he understood. Then he placed his hand on the second wheel and turned it with a slow and steady motion. The wheel resisted at first. It was designed to feel locked until the correct pressure was applied. Leo kept turning gently, but when he felt the resistance grow sharper, he changed the angle of his fingers and rotated it downward. Another click echoed inside the room. A fourth click followed. Everyone froze. Leo stepped back with wide eyes. He had expected some reaction, but hearing the lock respond so clearly still surprised him. Grant leaned forward. "Open it then." His voice was soft, almost nervous. Leo placed both hands on the heavy safe handle. He pulled slowly. The door did not move. He pulled again, harder this time. Suddenly the door shifted outward with a strong metallic sound. The rich men gasped. Mara clutched her hands to her chest. Grant stared as if the world had changed. Leo pulled the door open completely. The stacks of money shined under the lights. The safe was open. The impossible had happened. Grant stepped back with shock. His friends looked at Leo with wide eyes. No one knew what to say. Leo turned around, looking at them all. His expression was calm, but his eyes showed a hint of fear. He knew that opening this safe would change everything for him and his mother. Grant walked toward him slowly. His face showed confusion, amazement, and worry at the same time. He looked at the safe, then at Leo, then at the open door again. "How did you open it?" Grant asked, his voice shaking slightly. Leo held his notebook close to his chest. "I understand machines. I study them. I listen." Grant did not know what to say to that. His friends remained silent, unsure what would happen next. The money sat inside the safe, untouched. Leo did not look at it. He looked at his mother. Mara had tears in her eyes. She stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. Grant stood still, thinking deeply. He had made a promise, and now he had to choose whether to honor his words or find a way out. The whole room waited for his decision. The future of Leo and Mara hung in the air like a delicate thread. The meeting room remained silent after Leo opened the safe. The soft hum of the air system was the only sound in the air. The heavy door of the safe stood open, revealing the countless stacks of money inside. The rich men looked at the open safe with disbelief. No one dared to speak first. Leo stood near the safe, breathing slowly. He had done something even experts believed impossible. Grant, the billionaire, stared at Leo without blinking. He looked at the open safe, then at Leo again, then back at the safe. His face went through many emotions. At first he looked shocked, then confused, then troubled. He did not smile. He did not laugh. He simply stared at the young boy who had changed the room in a single moment. Mara, Leo's mother, took a step forward. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained gentle. She did not know what Grant might do next. She wanted to protect her son, even if her fear was strong. The rich men slowly formed a small group near the corner of the room. They whispered to each other, trying to understand what had just happened. They spoke in low voices about the double lock, the impossible angle, the strange skill Leo used, and the promise Grant had made. Grant finally let out a breath and walked toward Leo. His steps were slow, heavy, and thoughtful. He looked like a man carrying a large weight on his shoulders. He stood in front of Leo and examined him carefully. Leo did not step back. He stayed calm, though his hands shook slightly. He held his notebook close and waited for Grant to speak. Grant's voice came out low and steady. "You opened the safe." His tone carried no humor and no anger. It sounded more like a confession. Leo nodded once. He stayed polite and quiet. Mara stepped closer, ready to step between them if needed. Grant looked at the open safe again. There was no trick. The door was unlocked, the money was untouched, and everything Leo had done was clear to everyone. Grant remembered his own words in front of the whole room. "If you can open this safe, I will give you all the money inside." He had spoken it with confidence, believing that no one would ever open it. Now he had to face the promise he had made. Mara spoke softly. "Sir, he did what you asked. He opened it." She did not sound demanding. She sounded hopeful. Grant looked at her with an unreadable expression. He turned back to Leo. The boy stood straight. He did not ask for money. He did not speak of the promise. He did not show greed. He looked more concerned about his mother than about the $15 million in the safe. One of the rich men finally spoke. "Grant, you made a promise in front of all of us." His voice was shaky yet firm. Another man nodded. "You said you would give the money to anyone who opened it, and this boy did." Grant looked annoyed for a moment. He did not enjoy being reminded of his own words, but he knew he could not deny it. He squared his shoulders and walked toward the safe. He placed his hand inside and touched one of the bundles. The money felt cold against his skin. He turned back to Leo. "Tell me how you learned this," Grant asked. He spoke with honest curiosity. Leo opened his notebook slowly. "I study machines. I study locks. I listen to sounds. I watch how things move. My mind remembers the patterns. I practice on old locks I find. I test things at home." Grant listened closely. He had never seen someone speak about machines with such simplicity and such clarity. There was no pride in Leo's voice, only truth. Mara added quietly. "He repairs things at home, fans, clocks, broken radios, anything he finds. He likes to understand how everything works. Grant walked closer to the boy. He studied Leo's eyes. He saw calm, intelligence, and discipline. The boy did not brag. He stood there with quiet strength. Grant asked another question. Did anyone teach you? Leo shook his head. I learned by watching. The men behind Grant looked surprised. A boy with no teacher had opened the world's most secure safe. They whispered again, amazed by the talent standing in front of them. Grant looked deep in thought. For the first time during the day, he did not speak to entertain or impress anyone. He spoke honestly. Leo, do you know what 500 million means? Leo nodded slightly. It is a very large amount. It can help my mother. It can change our life. But I did not open the safe for the money. You asked if I could, so I tried. Grant's eyes softened for a moment. A small feeling of respect began to rise inside him. The boy's answer had no greed. It had only truth. Mara placed her hand gently on Leo's arm. She looked at Grant with hope but no demand. She had lived her whole life working quietly. She never expected something so huge to happen to her son. Grant walked slowly toward the table where his drink sat. He took a long breath. His friends watched him closely. They wondered what his final decision would be. Would he honor his words, or would he try to avoid the promise? Grant turned around at last. His voice sounded firm and loud. Everyone listened. You open the safe, and I keep my promises. The rich men gasped softly. Mara's eyes filled with tears. Leo remained calm, though his heart started to beat faster. Grant continued. But money like this cannot simply be handed without thinking. I will not give you the money as cash in a bag. It is too dangerous. Instead, I will find a responsible way to give you what I promised. The men nodded. What Grant said made sense. 500 million in cash would bring danger. Many people could try to harm Leo or Mara. Grant understood this. Mara stepped forward with concern. We do not want trouble. We only want peace. Grant raised a hand gently. I understand. Let me think. He walked toward the safe once again. He touched the metal door carefully. He knew that the company that built the safe would be shocked when he told them that a young boy opened it. He knew the story would spread among wealthy circles. He also knew that Leo's ability was something rare. He turned back to Leo. I want to test something. Will you come with me to another room? Mara tensed. Grant noticed it and said softly, just to test a skill. Nothing else. Leo nodded to calm his mother. Yes, I can come. Grant signaled his assistant to bring something. A few moments later, the assistant returned with a metal box. It was another lock mechanism, smaller but very complex. It was a test device used by safe manufacturers. Grant placed it on the table. Try to open this. Leo stepped forward. He touched the box lightly. He studied the lock. He placed his ear against it. Then he tapped once. His face showed interest. Mara watched him with nervous pride. The rich men watched with curiosity. They wanted to see if the boy's success was luck or real skill. Leo turned one small dial. Then he paused. He tapped again. He waited. Then he turned the dial in a different direction. A soft click came from inside the device. Grant stared. The boy had barely touched it, yet the lock responded. Leo twisted another part of the mechanism. He used a careful angle. Another click came. The box opened. Grant stood still. His friends exchanged stunned looks. It was now clear that Leo had a gift far beyond normal. Understanding, Grant raised his hand. Enough. His voice was steady. He looked at Leo as if seeing a rare treasure. Then he looked at Mara with a new kind of respect. This boy is special. Mara lowered her eyes humbly. Leo stood straight, waiting for Grant's next words. Grant breathed deeply. His decision was forming, and it would change not only Leo's life, but Mara's life as well. Leo had proven that his talent was real, controlled, and extraordinary. Now Grant had to decide what to do with that talent, and with his 500 million promise, the future stood before all of them, like a door waiting to be opened. The small test box lay open on the table, and Grant could not take his eyes off it. The sharp click of its lock still echoed in his mind. He had expected Leo to try for several minutes. He had expected mistakes. He had expected hesitation. But Leo had opened the device with the same calm confidence he used on the giant safe. It was no accident. It was real skill. Grant stood still, thinking deeply. The rich men who had gathered earlier now whispered among themselves. They had seen something rare. They had watched a quiet boy unlock two devices that experts struggled with. Some men looked amazed, others looked nervous, but all of them understood that Leo was no ordinary child. Mara stood close to Leo. She kept one hand near his shoulder, ready to pull him close if anything unsafe happened. She respected Grant's power, but she did not trust it fully. She had spent years cleaning this building and watching people with wealth behave in many ways. She hoped Grant would honor his promise, but she remained cautious. Grant finally turned to them. He looked at Leo first, then at Mara. Both waited quietly for him to speak. Leo, I want to ask you something, Grant said with a serious tone. Leo nodded. Yes, sir, Grant continued slowly. When you opened the safe in this box, what did you hear? What did you feel? Leo opened his notebook and pointed at some sketches. The metal tells me things. Machines have patterns. When they move or when they resist, they make different sounds. I remember these sounds. I know when they change. I follow them. Grant listened carefully. He saw honesty in Leo's eyes. No tricks, no games, only truth and rare talent. One of the rich men stepped forward. Grant, if the boy can open locks like this, he can work for any company in the world. People would fight to hire him. Another man added. If the wrong people discover his ability, they may try to take advantage of him. You must protect him, and you must protect his mother. Mara grew tense at the comment, but Grant raised a hand to calm everyone. He understood what the men meant. Leo's talent was powerful. It needed protection, guidance, and care. Grant spoke gently. Leo, you opened my safe. I made a promise, and I will keep it. But I will not hand you 500 million without a plan. Money that large brings danger. Many people will come after you. I cannot allow that to happen. Mara stepped forward. We never wanted danger. We do not want enemies. We only want a peaceful life. Grant nodded. And I want the same for you. He walked toward the open safe once more. The bright stacks of money remained untouched. They looked almost unreal. Grant touched the edge of the safe door and took a long breath. I will honor my promise. You will receive the value of this money, but not in one pile. It will be protected. It will be placed in a secure trust. You will receive it safely, under rules that protect you. And Leo will receive guidance, education, and training. Mara's eyes filled with concern. Sir, we do not want trouble. We only want to live quietly. We do not want our lives controlled. Grant shook his head. I am not controlling your life. I am protecting you. 500 million cannot be carried in a bag. It cannot be left in a house. You would be unsafe. I will give you the money, but I will make sure no one can harm you for it. Leo looked thoughtful. How will you do this? Grant pointed at the meeting table. Sit with me, both of you. We will talk. I will explain everything. Mara hesitated. She looked at the rich men, then at Leo. Her heart was torn between fear and hope. Leo placed his hand gently on hers and whispered, It is all right. We can listen. They sat at the table. Grant took out a pen and a large pad. He drew simple lines and boxes, creating a plan that even Mara could understand. Grant made sure his explanation stayed clear and easy. He explained what a trust was. He explained how money could be stored safely in a bank protected by several layers of law. He explained how no one could steal it, touch it, or misuse it. Only Leo and Mara could access it when needed. He explained how the money could help Leo study, learn, and grow. He explained how the money could be used to improve their home, their food, their clothes, their health, and their safety. Mara listened with deep attention. She never thought she would discuss such things in her life. She had worked for years cleaning offices and rooms, never expecting that one day she would sit with a billionaire discussing a future worth millions. Grant continued, I am not giving you charity. I am keeping my promise, and I am also giving Leo a chance. He has a gift. It must be protected. Leo looked at the pad with interest. May I ask something? Grant nodded. Yes. Leo pointed at the pad. You said I can learn more. Where will I learn? Grant smiled for the first time that day. I will arrange it. There are skilled engineers who can teach you safely. I also have contacts with schools where your gift will be respected. The rich men had grown silent. They watched Grant take responsibility for the situation with unexpected seriousness. They had seen many sides of Grant, the proud man, the confident man, the showman. But today they saw something new, a man who could understand real value. Mara took a deep breath. She looked at her son. She saw him calm, confident, and safe. She placed her hand on his shoulder again. Grant turned to her. Mara, you have worked in this building for many years. You have always been honest. You have always worked with pride. I respect that. So I will offer you something as well. Mara looked surprised. Sir, you no longer have to clean this building. You deserve more. I will give you a new position, one that is safe and easier. Your salary will be higher, and you will work fewer hours so you can support Leo as he learns. Mara's eyes filled with tears. She had never received such kindness in her life. She covered her mouth to hide her trembling breath. Leo looked at Grant. Thank you, sir, but I did not do this for work or money. I only wanted to try. Grant nodded. And because of that, you earned respect. Not only money. The room fell quiet again. The discussion had changed everything. But Grant was not finished. Leo, I want to ask one more thing. Do you trust me? Leo looked at his mother. Mara wiped her eyes and nodded slowly. She trusted very few people, but something in Grant's voice sounded sincere. Leo looked back at Grant and nodded. Yes, sir. Grant placed his hand on the table. Then, tomorrow, come back, both of you. I will finalize everything, your trust fund, your new home plan, and your new future. Mara's heart fluttered. New home, she had never dreamed of such a thing. Grant smiled slightly. You will need a safe place for a safe future. Leo closed his notebook slowly. His journey had begun. The door to a new world was opening. And tomorrow, everything would change again. Morning sunlight touched the mansion when Tom woke up. He had slept very little, but his mind was sharp and focused. Today was the day he would face Mr. Hale again. Today was the day the truth would come out. The safe was open. The mystery was solved. And now the world was about to learn how a young man with no special background did what experts failed to do for years. He stepped out of the guest room and walked downstairs. The mansion was quieter than usual. Workers were whispering as he passed by. They looked at him with respect, with surprise, and with a kind of curiosity that he had never seen before. Yesterday they saw him open the safe that everyone believed was impossible to break. Today they were waiting to see what happened next. In the main hall, his mother Eva stood nervously near the stairs. She looked as if she did not know whether to smile or worry. She had been proud of her son last night, but she also feared what this victory might bring. She knew powerful people sometimes changed behavior when their pride was touched, and Mr. Hale was a man who did not like being defeated by anyone. Tom walked to her carefully. "Are you ready?" she asked in a soft voice. "I am," he answered with calm confidence. Before Eva could reply, the main door opened with a loud sound. Mr. Hale walked in with 2 assistants behind him. His steps were firm and fast, as if he had been awake all night thinking about what happened. His expression was sharp but not angry. It was the look of a man trying to understand how a puzzle that defeated him for so long was solved by someone he had underestimated. Tom stood straight, waiting for him. Mr. Hale stopped only a few steps away, so it was not luck, he said in a steady tone. "You really opened it?" Tom nodded. "Yes, sir, I opened it." Mr. Hale looked at him with deep interest. How Tom had expected this question. He took a breath and began to explain the process. He described how he studied the wear marks on the safe wheel, how he listened to the pattern inside, how he learned to tell the difference between silent clicks, and how he noticed that the safe had a slightly unstable internal gear caused by age. His explanation took a few minutes, and during that time the assistants listened silently. Even Eva stood amazed, learning for the first time how her son saw details others ignored. Mr. Hale folded his arms. "So you understood something that no expert understood for many years." Tom answered with honesty. "I just saw what was already there." Mr. Hale stared at him for a long moment. There was no anger in his eyes now. Instead, there was respect. True respect. He finally spoke again. "You surprise me in a way no one has done in a long time." Eva lowered her eyes, unsure how to react. The assistants exchanged glances, surprised at their employer's tone. Then Mr. Hale did something unexpected. He extended his hand. "Congratulations, Tom, you did something extraordinary, and I intend to honor my promise." Eva gasped softly. Tom looked surprised but shook the billionaire's hand firmly. Mr. Hale turned to his assistant to prepare the contract. "The boy will receive the reward exactly as promised." The assistant nodded and hurried away. Eva stepped forward nervously. "Sir, may I say something?" Mr. Hale looked at her with a kinder expression than usual. Go ahead. "I did not want Tom to take the challenge," she said. "I feared it would cause trouble for him, but he showed courage and skill. I hope this situation does not affect his life negatively." Mr. Hale shook his head. "No harm will come to him. In fact, I misjudged him at first, and I admit that. He opened a safe that held something precious to me for many years, and because of that, I owe him more than just money." Tom raised an eyebrow. "More, sir." Mr. Hale nodded. "Follow me." He turned and walked toward his office. Tom and Eva followed quietly. When the door opened, the huge safe stood there, open just as Tom had left it. Inside were documents, old photographs, and a small wooden box that looked very old. Mr. Hale walked to the wooden box and lifted it carefully. "This was my father's box," he said. "It contained something from my childhood. I tried to open this safe many times because I wanted to see what he left behind for me, but I could not do it. The experts could not do it. For years it stayed locked away. I felt as if I lost a part of my father that I could never get back." Tom listened with respect. "Now," Mr. Hale continued, "I have it again because of you. You gave me back a memory I thought I lost forever. That is why I want to offer you something more than money." He placed the box down and turned to Tom. "How would you like to work here as an apprentice under me? I will teach you business skills, security design, and many things that can build a strong future for you. You will have access to opportunities many people never get." Eva covered her mouth in shock. Tom stepped back slightly. He did not expect such an offer. A billionaire offering to train him personally was something beyond imagination. "Are you sure, sir?" Tom asked. Mr. Hale nodded. "You earned it. I want someone with your mind near me, someone who sees details others miss." Tom looked at his mother. She nodded slowly with a proud smile. Her eyes were filled with emotion. She knew this was a chance that could change his future completely. Tom turned back to Mr. Hale. "I accept, sir." "Thank you." Mr. Hale smiled with approval. "Good, then we start today." For the first time since working there, Eva felt truly at ease. Her son was no longer just a cleaning lady's child in a rich man's house. He was a young man with talent and a future brighter than anything she imagined. Tom left the office with his mother. Workers watched him with wide eyes. News spread fast. Some whispered with admiration. Some nodded with respect. Everyone knew something big had changed. Outside in the garden, Tom stood for a moment, breathing slowly, letting everything settle inside him. He had opened a safe no one else could open. He had earned the respect of a powerful man, and he had opened a door to a new life. The mansion that once felt huge and distant now felt like a place where his future was waiting, and he walked forward with confidence, ready for whatever came next.